on our agenda this evening is citizens participation, in which I just picked up the sign-up sheet and it's blank. So we are going to move into the consent agenda items. Those items are all in the board packets. Does anybody have any questions, any concerns? Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda items?
So moved. Second.
Motion by Sherry Schutte, seconded by Lisa Elrod to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Does anybody have any questions, concerns? A lot of information in there. Angela?
Lisa?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Tammy?
Yes.
Sherry?
Yes.
Roger is absent. Tiffany?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
6 yes, 1 absent.
Next item is financial statements and payment of the January bills. Do I hear a motion to pay the bills this month?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Sherry Schutte, seconded by Lisa Elrod to approve the financial statement and action on the January bills as presented.
Does anybody have any questions or concerns about any of the items in there?
I was curious about the student drug testing. There's 2 invoices here. One's for 480 and the other one is for 520. How many kids does that serve?
So we contract that out. I think it's about
Did 20
$20 a piece on per test.
I gotcha.
Yeah. So then that's with our activities process. They sign up.
And so how often do we do this?
twice a quarter.
Twice a quarter, okay.
And it's a random.
I knew
Yeah,
that part.
for
I knew
activities.
that part. I just didn't know how often. Thank you.
They also utilize that with our bus services as well, with our staff. So they
Oh, I
drug
gotcha.
testing also. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
There's been a motion and a second. Angela?
Motion by Sherry Schutte, seconded by Lisa Elrod to approve the financial statement and action on the January bills as presented. Jennifer?
Yes.
Tammy?
Yes.
Sherry?
Yes.
Roger is absent. Tiffany?
Yes.
Lisa?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
6 yes, 1 absent.
Next, we will go into administrative reports, board and committee reports. I know there was a calendar meeting, I believe, since last meeting.
I
don't think we've
There was
met
one right before.
right before our
Okay.
December meeting,
Okay.
so we've not met
Yeah.
since December.
Okay, because I was like,
Because we gave time for committee to review the
That's right.
revisions, which is on the agenda to approve too.
yeah. Any other board? Sherry?
Just to let you guys know, we have the MSBA Board of Directors meetings the end of this month, and right now I plan on going unless the weather gets bad.
What date is that, do you know?
Pull that up here real quick and tell ya. It is the 26th and 27th. Friday and Saturday.
Where's it at?
Columbia.
Any other board and committee reports? And we will move into building principal reports. Obviously, the reports are in our board packet. At the elementary school, do you have anything you want to add or anything that you're...
We've only been here for about 4 or 5 days since last time we talked to you. That being said, I was able and Dr. Wade was able to hit a majority of classrooms today. So just a shout out to the teachers. After this many snow days, elementary kids are insane, and people were learning, kids were under control, and simply showing up and keeping the order today was a pretty impressive thing for us to observe. So we are appreciative of our staff in that way.
That's awesome. Thank you. Anybody have any questions about anything in the elementary report? We will move into the middle school. Obviously, that report is in our board packets. A lot of good information going on down there. A lot of good things going on in the middle school. Do you have any additions, corrections, or anything exciting?
Well, we are taking our perfect attendance first semester kids to Frisco's next Friday. to give them a little, dinner reward for, their perfect attendance. So I'm hoping that all 38 of our kids get to go, so,
That's awesome. 38.
yep.
Do they know in advance, like, what their incentive's gonna be?
Yes, because we have to do permission slips, so
Okay.
we sent those out today.
I see.
So they have to sign up to be able to.
I didn't
go,
know if they
so.
were working towards, oh,
Yeah.
they
They know,
I gotta go.
typically we do something, because we try to do quarterly incentives after school, and then we do something for the perfect attendance kids as well. So typically, the ones that have been in the building know that we do something, to try to recognize that, so.
Awesome.
Yes, thank you. Does anybody have any questions about anything in the middle school report? Then we will slide right into the high school. That report is also in our packet. Ms. Misi, do you have anything you'd like to add, or?
Yeah, I do have a correction. I had a typo on the enrollment. We're at 439. If you added up the numbers at the bottom, you realized it was just a typo, and we didn't lose 30 kids in a month. So that was a little scary. And then, yeah, everything's pretty much in there. I did want to give a shout out to my student council and their advisors, Ms. Campos, Ms. Abdanova, with all these snow days. We are ready for court warming tomorrow, so I appreciate everybody keep the weather away, and we're gonna do it. So we don't have to reschedule. They're all very excited about it. The school looks great, so it's gonna be good. And I also wanted to give a shout out to our maintenance crew, because our sidewalks are clear, our parking lots are clear, and I was here over these snow days, and we all were and saw them working very diligently. One of them was with a snowblower and completely encased in coveralls, and I'm like, ooh, I'm glad that's not me. So.
And it was cold out there. So, yes, thank you. Anybody have any questions about any of the information in high school? Next item is special education.
I have nothing. Oh, it's all good in the world. Every day is a new day. I love it.
And then we will move into, does anybody have any questions about any of the special ed report? Then I will move right into the assistant superintendent report.
I don't have any additions, but I did want to thank Mrs. Shoemaker and Mr. Cross. They helped me on Tuesday morning. We packed 100 food bags and then delivered those to our Friday backpack kiddos since we've been off of school. Mrs. Macy would have helped, but she has had a nasty cough, and we did not want her to cough all over the place. So I really appreciated their help with that. It was a lot. So.
Well, and not to talk out there, but we did help deliver them off. Mrs. Siebert probably was out till about 8 or 9 o'clock that evening after she sent me home to make sure the kiddos got the bag. So that was very appreciated by all of us who
Hey, if
watch out for the
anybody,
littles.
send them, I'll come help with that too. Send out an SOS and I can come help.
That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you for the extra hours that you spent
Yeah.
to do that. Next month,
Is she here to be
Observing.
observing.
We're not introducing her yet. I didn't know if there was sorry, it's kind of.
We might as well now.
At this
then,
point,
for the
right?
awkward.
You might introduce it. And just to get the full effect, why don't you go ahead and have a
So our new student advisor to the board is Abigail Stovall. So she'll be sworn in next month, and will be joining us at all of our meetings for the next year. So we're excited to have her.
Welcome, welcome. Next month won't be near as awkward. Just come on in right here. It's all good. We're glad to have you.
Yeah, Miss Jenkins will get you a nice plaque. This was her name plate, so we'll have that set up there for you. Glad to have you.
Next item. Did anybody have any questions on the assistant superintendent report?
Nope. Super report, I was just going to reiterate again, thank you to the administrators packing bags, and thank you to Ms. Siebert for driving those around, and Mrs. Weber did as well. So helped out to get all those out to the students. So good on that. Couple things I did want to point out in my soup report as well. I put some links to articles in there, and some of those are from the commissioner, Margie Van Diemen, Dr. Van Diemen. He had spoken about that, and then there's other superintendents who are concerned with the APR and the new scoring and growth model. I will go on record saying I am as well. Had put in my report, I'm on just on a statewide committee. There's just a handful of superintendents. I'm on that committee to help try to get a better understanding, get concerns from superintendents in the regions and report that. And we're going to start working with the current Commissioner of Education and then future Commissioner of Education to try to say, hey, there are probably some good things, but what are some things that the Commissioner, DESE, and the State Board of Education would consider revamping. So those conversations are in the works and starting. One of the questions we kind of have is accreditation will be based on the scores from 2022, 2023, and then 2024, but the big question mark is that an average of those three, or is that just a year to year? So when you really start breaking down the data and how it's calculated, we could essentially get into a stagnant kind of where you fell. You're not really going to go up much and you're not really going to go down much, and so it's just kind of this statistical, what are we doing? Ms. Siebert's going to get more in depth on that, but again, just trying to figure out where we fall with this. What does this look like moving forward? Accreditation, where's that? How does that work? So I'll bring more information as this kind of progresses. So.
Would you be able to email me those links? Because I could not get them to open at my house.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
And I think I would be able to in an email versus the PDF.
Okay. Oh,
Does anybody
yes.
else have trouble with that?
Click here for now, and it's not a link.
If they're not linked? Okay.
You might be able to copy and paste that.
Well, it was, when I try it, it does the whole thing. It turns the whole thing
This
blue.
PDF. Yep.
Yeah.
I'll send you an email.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else have any questions about anything in the superintendent report? Then we will move right into unfinished business, the 2023-2024 budget update.
Yes, so we are on track. Expenditures to date are 79%, and in comparison to our revenues, which are 37%. So again, nothing major in the works. I've already started our 24-25 budget, kind of getting that in the works. So a lot of that's going to depend on state legislative session this next few months, and I'll start bringing more information as we get into that.
Thank you. And there's no motion at this time for that, so we will move into some new business, which first item under new business is to approve the 2024-2025 calendar.
So in your packet, you have a copy of that proposed calendar. So I just want to thank the committee for their work. They put a lot of hours in, had a lot of good conversation, discussion. Committee members went and got feedback from the buildings, brought it back, really looked at some things. So I think we have a nice calendar presented for next year. It's really similar to this year, a few minor revisions, but just some highlights in there. We have 2,044 hours of required instruction built in, with 60 hours built in for any kind of snow days, make up weather like that. We have a traditional Thanksgiving, Christmas, and spring break, 13 to 16 professional development days. So the 16 are for new teachers, 13 are for trained teachers. It's aligned with RTI there at Rolla. We have a long week break prior to the start of summer school, so just a lot of good things in there. So again, appreciate their efforts on that and feedback.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So before we went to 4-day, we had an early out, right?
Yes.
So that was an hour of PD each week?
I'd have to go back and take it for probably roughly an hour.
So
yeah.
is there more PD days now for teachers? Or more PD hours with the 4-day and having that one Monday than it was before?
So you're probably getting 6 hours on a Monday because you have a half hour for lunch.
Okay.
So it'll be 6 hours times the 13 days, that's 60 78 hours.
78, that was.
Yeah, so I don't think there were 78 Wednesdays in that calendar, so I'd say yes.
Okay, so in that time, is it like on those Mondays, do they get time to plan and to do teacher things? Or is it
Yes.
like always, all day long, full PD?
So feedback from survey Mrs. Siebert put out, that was something that has been tweaked to give them some time to
Okay.
do that as well. As
Cool.
communicated to you for, like this coming Monday, we'll have PD with that built in for teachers. so.
Yeah, and that's, this coming Monday is when they get to do the pick.
Mhm.
No, they do the menu style in
Menu.
February.
Oh, okay.
This coming Monday, they have, the first half of the day is, they can just work in their classrooms, they can
Okay.
choose curriculum, pacing guides, lesson planning, whatever they need to
Cool.
work on.
Okay.
And then in the afternoon, they'll have their building meetings. And then the district leadership team is, going to meet as well, and we'll start working on the PD survey that we send out every year, and then the PD calendar for next year, which will include more built-in time for work.
Cool, okay, I was just curious about that. That was a teacher perk.
Does anybody else have any other questions on the calendar? Or do I have a motion to approve the calendar as it's presented?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion by Tammy Palmer, seconded by Lisa Elrod, that the 2024-25 proposed calendar be approved as presented.
Any further discussion? Angela?
Roger is absent. Tiffany?
Yes.
Lisa?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Tammy?
Yes.
Sherry?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
6 yes, 1 absent.
Next item under new business is the 2022-2023 Achievement Data Presentation.
I'm going to try and keep this as brief as possible, but there is a lot of information to go through, so please bear with me. So as Dr. Davidson has stated, we did get some guidance from DESE once this APR was released. Just a reminder that 2023 and 2022 are under the MSIP 6 guidelines, so you can only compare 22 and 23 together. All of the previous years were under a different set of guidelines, so they were calculated differently, so you can't compare them because the calculations are different. Statewide, the distribution is very similar to what it was last year. The big things that DESE pointed out in the conference that they did with the superintendents, they pointed out learning gaps from COVID-19 are still a very real issue from that time when we were off school. Chronic absenteeism is another continued issue, and we'll talk about that a little bit when we look at our specific APR as well. You know, when we look at our reports every month and we see, oh, attendance is at 90%, that's great, or attendance is over 90%. But what you have is those 10% of kids that aren't here aren't just missing 1 or 2 days, they're missing 30, 45, you know, that kind of, and that's a concern. Because they're missing all of that instruction, but yet they're still required to take, you know, all of our state assessments. And then another point that DESE pointed out was that we need to continue to update our CSIP plans and make sure that we're utilizing those to improve instruction and guide student performance there as well. So this slide is just a snip from the MSIP 6 manual. This is how the breakdown of the scoring. And so we'll look at this for our district level and our building level. Both academic achievement, our achievement points are based on actual academic status, but then also growth. And then you have continuous improvement points as well. And all of those combine to make your total score for APR. So one area that you heard me talk about last month, and Dr. Davidson just touched as well, is that academic achievement growth, because that's where we are losing our points. So I'm going to attempt to explain this growth model. It's pretty confusing. In the table that I have on here, that shows the tested area and then the scores that are used to predict and then calculate growth. It gets a little iffy in the high school tested areas. Those are highlighted there at the bottom, because they don't really tell us what they're using to base that growth off of. We know that starting next year for biology, it will be 8th grade science, but for the previous few years, we don't know if it's been ELA or a combination of ELA and math. That's kind of one of those things that it's just a guessing game, which is very frustrating when you're trying to show growth. So how this model works is they determine a statistical relationship between the scores. So each student is assigned a predicted score. So I will pick on my own child and use him as an example. Let's say that Silas Siebert gets a specific score on his 8th grade math MAP test. Then that score that he got last year will be used to predict what he is going to get on his freshman Algebra 1 test. If he gets better than that prediction, yay, the district gets points. If he gets lower than that prediction, you don't get any points. He could still get proficient, but if he didn't get as high as the prediction, then you don't get any points at all. So that's one part of that growth model, and that's done for every single student and then put together. Then that school comparison is compared to like schools, but we're not told who those like schools are. It's essentially like a big scatter plot with a line through it. So that's the combination of those two things are how we get growth points. So you'll see as I start going through these graphs that when you look at our achievement status, our actual achievement scores, we are scoring higher than schools that have higher APRs than us. So it's very frustrating, and it's frustrating for our teachers and our building principals as well, because how do you plan for something like that when there's no way to predict that ourselves? So this is the breakdown of APR across the state. The blue is 2023, the green is 2022. We fall in this middle category with most of the state. Ours was 71.6, so we are in the accredited range. You can see here that in the schools in that 90 to 100% range, 13 of those 26 are K2 or K8 school districts. Hey, guess what K2 schools don't take? They don't take the math test. So that's a little bit of an unequitable scoring mechanism there. So another thing of note, under our last year of MSIP 5, there were actually 371 schools who scored 90 or above, and now there's 26. So you can see the frustration, when we say that there's a flaw in the model, we're not making excuses. We're not afraid of accountability, but some accountability with equity is needed here. So that's the breakdown by the state. Before I get into this area comparison, I want to look at our actual breakdown of APR scores, and this was in the board packet as well. For those of you who can't see the little numbers, I apologize. So we'll start at the top with our district scores. This compares 2022 at the bottom, this is 2023 at the top. So you can see we dropped from 78.8 to 71.6. We actually got more continuous improvement points. We grew there, but then in the performance points, we decreased, and that's with that academic growth. And so we'll look a little bit more in detail at that. When we're looking at these breakdown of points, where it says designation, you want this to say on track or target, because those are the highest distinctions. So you can see and this is district-wide, for our English academic achievement, our math academic achievement, science and social studies, we are on track in all of those areas. If it said target there, then we would have gotten 100% of the points, but on track it is 75% of the points. It's when you go down and start looking at that growth status, That's where it's showing below average, and that's that growth model that we just talked about. You can see we got only 50% of our points in our college and career readiness assessments, and then our advanced credit, that's your dual credit, your advanced placement course offerings, those types of things. So we did not get all of our points there. Graduation rate was good, and then that graduation rate follow-up, we're on track there as well. In terms of, our improvement plan, our CSIP, that was added this year. We got all of our points on that, and we got positive remarks from the committee who reviewed our CSIP at DESE. And then we did our climate and culture survey. We got all of our kindergarten entry assessment points. That was an area that Dr. Davidson had to reach out to the state because they had made an error and they gave us 0 points there. And we had evidence through core data that we had submitted that. And so that was, they did correct that area for us. We got all of our ICAP points this year, which we did not in 2022. Attendance, we lost some points in attendance. We applied for a CTE expansion, that was adding the half-time ag teacher with Mr. Borgman, and so that gave us some points there that we didn't get previously. And then everything else is just kind of just our compliance things. We submitted things on time, we turned in the things that we needed to do. We have an appropriately certified superintendent and that kind of thing. So the other documents on here are the breakdown by building. You can see at the elementary level, we knew that 98% was going to be hard to maintain, and we did see a decrease at the elementary. When you look at the breakdown again though, in terms of academic achievement, we're hitting the target there. Having an MPI over 400, that's what your big schools are striving for. So the fact that we have an MPI over 400 in both ELA and math in the elementary, that's a big deal. But you can see again, we lost those points in the growth areas. Another area where we lost points in the elementary was in attendance, and you'll see in every building we did lose points in the attendance category. Moving on to the middle school. The middle school's APR scores improved. They went from 62.4 to 65.6. They got all of their continuous improvement points, and then they had an increase in performance points as well. So kudos to the middle school for that. That's a big deal. So you can see again in academic performance, on track, on track, on track, target. Science was a big one. When we look at the area comparisons, you'll see our 5th grade science scores were the highest in the area, and that's been a huge growth area, and so we're very proud of that. Again though, we lost those points in the growth areas. We got 100% ICAP completion, and then middle school hit 100% attendance. Moving on to the high school. The high school did see a decrease from 66.6% to 51.1%. They lost points in both continuous improvement and performance. While that is frustrating, I will say we did see some growth in the high school, particularly in social studies and in government, where it says on track. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment, but this is an area where historically, even before this new scoring system, we struggled in government for years, we have. And Mrs. Miller, I want to say kudos to her. This is only her 3rd year in the district, and she's improved every single year, helped improve the scores every single year. And then they had 10-digit growth in government last year, so from 22 to 23. So that's a big deal. Again, you can see those growth scores below average to average in all those categories. Graduation rate is good. That was, we got all of our points there. We did lose some points, again, on attendance. High school was our lowest attendance building. So that's the breakdown of those APR scores. And then if you look at the area comparison, let me pull this back up.
Hey Myra, on the attendance at the high school, those kiddos that are not here, they're doing virtual or in the ALC, are they counted in our attendance for this?
No.
Okay.
So it's our in-seat attendance.
I gotcha. Okay.
All right, this is the area comparison of APR. So as I said last month, we saw a decrease. We saw a decrease in scores. Herman did as well. Owensville saw a decrease. I believe Pacific, that's Merrimack Valley. Union did. St. James actually saw a decrease, but very slight because they were already at like 84%. So some decreases there. One thing, as I said, that you'll see as I start going through these specific scores is, you know, pay attention even to the county schools, Bourbon and Stillville. You know, they scored higher APR scores than us, but when you look at the breakdown of our actual academic achievement, in almost every single category we're higher. So that's just kind of that frustration with that growth model. So I wanted to kind of explain what this MAP performance index is, because we're going to look at two different measures tonight. We're going to look at the MPI, and then we're also going to look at percentage proficient and advanced. I think it's important to look at MPI because this includes all of our students. So as most of you know, I have to quit turning my pages. As most of you know, there's 4 categories on your MAP and EOC tests: below basic, basic, proficient, and advanced. So how this MPI is calculated, and this is just an example here. So let's say that on that top line, the blue line, 5% of your students are below basic, 10% are basic, 55% are proficient, 30% are advanced. Those numbers are then multiplied by that MSIP multiplier that's on there, and then they're added together, and that gives you that total score. So you want, as I was saying earlier, that if your MPI is 400 or higher, you're at the top. You know, that's where you want to be. So this is just from the MSIP manual. It shows you those ranges for on track and target. As I said, you know, that's where you want to be, those on track and target areas. This chart here is our district-wide. So this includes all of our students. This includes, you know, I did not break it out by student group. So when they say student group, when you're looking at those charts, if you go out to DESE's data dashboard and it says student group, that's referring to your direct certified free and reduced lunch, African American, Hispanic, IEPs, and English language learners. So a lot of the data separates that group. This is not separated. This is entire district-wide. So you can see that we're on track in all 8 areas with our MPI scores. We saw some slight decreases in ELA and math, and then science and social studies, those both increased. Then at the bottom, that's specific to those student groups that I was talking about. Again, on track in every area though in that student group. So I think those are very positive. We do want to continue to monitor our curricular alignment in ELA and math, and make sure that, especially with our new calendar, that our pacing guides are getting up to date and we're hitting those priority standards and helping our students be prepared. So these next few charts are the MPI comparisons. Our district is in the gold, and then the state MPI is in the black. So you can see for ELA, we are at or above the state MPI average in every category except for high school. English 2, we're below the average in that area. Same with math. You can see we're at or above the state average in the MPI in every category except for Algebra 1. I did calculate this because if you remember, we have one Algebra 1 class in 8th grade, and then there's high school Algebra 1 as well. So this includes both 8th grade and 9th grade. If you actually do 8th grade by itself, they're above state average in Algebra 1. Science comparison, again, 5th grade, really rocking it there. We're above the state average there. Biology, we're below average, but that number did increase from last year. So that's definitely a positive step in the correct direction. Government, again, just slightly below that state average, but we're continuing to show improvement in that area. So the rest of these charts are now, we're just looking at percentage proficient and advanced. So those MPI comparisons were all students, all scores. The next few charts are just those percentages proficient and advanced. Again, Cuba is in the golds, the state average is in the black, and then just some of those area schools are in the gray. I do want to say where I pulled this data from on the public website. So DESE does data suppression for small groups. So let's say that you only have 2 students score advanced on your government EOC. They're not going to give that percentage, because if you have 2 kids out of 60 taking it, you could pretty much tell who those 2 kids are. So they suppress that data. And so when you look on the public website, it's just listed with an asterisk. So some of these scores, the other districts had those asterisks listed. Obviously I have our numbers, so I could include all of our numbers. So if you see an area that is completely blank or it seems extremely low, then they probably had that, and their numbers are probably slightly higher. Anywhere where there were 3 numbers, where if it gave me the percentage of basic, below basic, and proficient, but it didn't give me the percentage of advanced, well, I just did basic math and figured out their percentage for them. So, so that's why some of these, you know, I don't want somebody to think that I'm misrepresenting other schools, but that's how it's publicly, that data is portrayed, is with that asterisk if it's a very small percentage of that population. Okay, so 3rd and 4th grade ELA, you can see 3rd grade ELA is one of the highest in the area, up there at 53.8% proficient and advanced. 4th grade took a slight dip in ELA last year, but compared to the area, they're still right there with them. And we've made some adjustments there, and we know it's going to be an improvement this year. 5th grade ELA is 50.7, so again, well above the state average. 6th grade, slightly above. We were at 38.2, the state average is 37.5. So again, another area where the middle school is above state average. 7th grade ELA, we're above state average there. You can see Bourbon is well above everybody else. I don't know what that ELA teacher's doing, but we need to send them a gift basket and buy them to come to our district. Those scores are great. Our 8th grade ELA, also above average there, doing a very nice job. And then this is our English 2. We are below average there. That's an area where we have made some personnel and some curricular changes. And so we are anticipating some positive results to come. Moving on to math, 3rd grade math, as you can see, doing very well, above the state average there. 4th grade math, the only school district higher than us in 4th grade math was St. James. So doing a very nice job there as well. 5th grade math, 45.1, so well above that state average there as well. You can see there that New Haven being blank, that's an example of where they didn't have any data in that place. And then 6th grade math above the state average, and several of the other area schools. Similar in 7th grade math and 8th grade math. You can see those scores are a little bit all over the place, but we are significantly higher than the state average. And then again, Algebra 1, we had already talked about. We have some concerns there. We feel like we have hired a really dynamic teacher into that position in the high school, and we are anticipating some positive changes there as well. Moving on to science. As a former science teacher, I'm loving to see this. Our 5th grade science scores are the highest in the area, so shout out to Miss Bailey. She's been working really hard for several years to get her curriculum down pat and get everything